Okay, can I have a motion for the minutes of September 12th, 2023?
I move to approve the minutes from the CPC meeting of September 12th, 2023.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any comments? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Done. I'd like to invite the lady in waiting. Historically, anyway. Would you please identify yourself?
Sure, up at the podium.
Sure.
Awesome. My name is Emily Broody. I have been a Harwich resident for, I was trying to calculate this the other day, full-time, I think 17 years. And I am a member of the planning board, and I'm the lady in waiting for CPC. I'm thrilled to be considered for this role. I've been, over the last couple weeks, doing my homework on the great work that you're doing. I was going back and looking through all of what you've approved and funded over the years, and it's a really rich set of, of different initiatives, and I'm thrilled to, again, be considered for this and can't wait to learn more.
Well, once we have the blessing of the Board of Selectmen, we'll welcome you into the group.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
In the meantime, I'll sit in the back and just listen and learn. Thank
Alrighty.
you.
For the record, we just voted it on Tuesday night.
Okay. Update status, Brooks Academy Museum. Master Chief, you're up first.
Who am I supposed to give the 5 to?
The secretary.
Thank you. And are these the same that you emailed?
It is.
So you all have?
Exactly the same thing you got. So again, I'm Sean Libby, the facilities manager for DPW. I've been here for about 10 years if you haven't met me yet. I took this over, as you found out last month, from David Spitz when he resigned from being the BAMC chair. And since then, I've been putting together the numbers to see where we're at and to answer your questions. You asked about the Article 41 for 2019. That's been fully expended. The Article 31 from 21, we just did an invoice for 133,602. We've got a number left. That number is going to expend all the money out of this article. So the rest will be coming out of the sinking fund, which was Article 47 at the last town meeting. Has nothing to do with CPC. So that'll be the end of this project for you. The next article that we had was 27. We're going to start with an OPM selection board. It's going out as an RFP probably next week. It's about a 3-week process. We're hoping to get the OPM on board in November so we can start the selection board for the architect. Once the architect's selected, our plan is to get started in January with the plans and specs.
Great.
No money has been expended.
Okay, I'm going to open the questions up to the board. We're going to start with John.
I have no questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Kathy,
I have no questions.
Mary,
No questions, just thank you for taking it on and
Oh.
keeping it moving.
You know, David Spitz left me a good project, and if it wasn't for his passion and tenacity at getting things through, we wouldn't even be where we're at now. So.
It's going to be fantastic. It's fantastic when it's done, so thank you.
Robert,
No questions?
Lassie,
No questions, thanks.
Kelly.
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Moving on.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
All right, next is,
Larry.
Affordable Housing Trust. So it's Article 25 of 2023. Update. Your choice.
Good evening.
I sent some documents on email that I've printed, had the town hall. They helped me downstairs printing these out. I had a lot of failure with paperwork, but
Now, Larry, which ones are these?
These are the attachments that I.
For the application, or, that's what, we need 5 for the application, and only I'm to get those.
Okay,
And then the update reports, I need just,
I give you 5 copies of the attachments for the update report,
oh, good, okay.
which is what, I think what this is.
So this is all my
No.
5.
Well,
I'm,
I'm confused then, because I
Yeah.
didn't get copies. There's not enough.
I think I'm just supposed to get the paper. But Dave, you can have that. But I think I'm supposed to have everybody's paper.
I take orders well.
Good for you. Well, I apologize for the
Not a problem.
mistake, because what I wanted to do on this, on our report, and then we'll go in next to the application, was, and what I had sent, and maybe I sent to the wrong application versus report, they kind of ran together. But let me first say who's on our committee at the moment, because we do have a relatively new trust committee. Brendan Lowney's not new, he's been on the trust for a long time. He's my historian on affordable housing in Harwich. But we have Claudia Williams is here and willing to answer questions anytime that they're too tough for us to. Bob Spencer is on our committee. He had a commitment, he couldn't make it tonight. And Mary Anderson is our select person, a member of the trust. And so if you will, the documents the information I've given you on hard copy and certainly sent to you, Jan, are draft documents. And so they will certainly change as we go forward, but I wanted to share with you the information that we have. They are public. We've discussed them in open meetings, so they're not confidential documents. But let me start first by just a quick review of where we are in our finances this year. We've got a financial report. Our funding through these include the articles that is listed in the agenda, Article 25. But our total funding through the last several years has been $2.387 million. We've expended a total of $979, well, basically $980.
One question.
Yeah,
Does this include the cell tower number?
it includes the cell tower number.
It does.
It includes the cell tower number for, let me pull that out.
Go.
It includes what it doesn't include is the cell tower number for 22 and 23. It includes the cell tower numbers for the years 19, 20, and 21.
Okay, one other
And
question.
so those, I have a note, we've had that discussion of being sure those funds, we can transfer those funds from cell tower, because that was a motion made by selectmen some years ago.
Well, here's the other question. This money gets transferred from CPC to the trust. Is the interest on the money included in this document?
It is.
Thank you.
It is. And so we have a total, and I gave you the full financial statement here as well. Our net then is $1.4 million that we have in the fund at the moment. And we'll get our application next year coming up. But let me just go through what we've been doing this past year, besides hopefully getting our act together somewhat and moving forward. We've worked with Jan Golston. Oh, the person I didn't mention who's helping us is Brianna Powers, who is our housing advocate. She's supporting us from the town. And what we've been doing this past year, we've worked with Jen Golston to draft an affordable house action plan, which you have a copy of. We've had, I think, 3 discussions on what our vision and mission should be. And that will also be most likely a major contribution to the local comprehensive plan and the housing production plan of what that vision is. So we'll shortly meet with them, so we're all coordinating our activities and where our housing should be. We're working with Laura Schufeld drafting a request for a proposal for the marsh line property. We have looked at one draft and made comments on that. I expect to get the next draft back certainly in time for October 23rd meeting. And let me emphasize last draft. My feeling is, and I think we all share this feeling, that we hope to get this out so we get responses from developers on conceptual plans and how we can best move that property forward with affordable housing with 1, 2, 3 bedroom, protecting open space. There are issues that are important to us because we need a lot of public discussion, but I think that public discussion is much better when you have some conceptual plans for people to react to. And so that's our goal at the moment, is to get that out, and hopefully that will be enticing enough. We own the land, so that's a big step up for the developers to move forward, I hope. The Marshline property has been our #1 focus. It's where we're really trying to, we want to get something done. We're trying not to get too much diverted by other discussions. In saying that, I'm going to say we are diverted some. We're working, we've had discussions with the Harwich Fire Association. As you know, they're working on the old fire station, and they're looking to put in, have 3 apartments at the 2nd story. They're making an application for you separately, but we're hoping to work together with them to provide some affordable house funding for the apartments on the 2nd story. Don't know exactly what the amount will be, but I think that's a great use of trust funds. I think it's short money to get affordable housing because they're getting funds from you and others to build the structure, basically, and for us to finish the upstairs and end up with 3 affordable apartments. And that is in a work in progress, but that is our discussion at the moment. We're hoping to support the Pine Oaks project. I'm not sure we'll support them financially or not, but we want to add our moral support, if nothing else, and our public support, because that is affordable housing. And whatever we can do to help the Pine Oaks move ahead, we've had them in front of our committee several times to have that discussion. We met with Mike Locke and had some discussions on are the ways that we could better link affordable housing with open space. You know, I think there's a good argument to be made, and we had a great speaker last week that made the argument that there's no reason that those should be opposing each other. You know, we could easily have affordable housing on a lot that then protects open space on the other part of the lot. Obviously, the difficult discussion in that direction is to convince people that density is not always a bad word. If you use higher density in an area that is suitable, if that provides housing and also protects open space, that's a win-win situation. And so we've had those discussions. We've also met with the Housing Committee to be sure that our mission visions don't conflict, that they're compatible, because we do have different roles. And we're having those discussions ongoing. Now, I'll just point out that all our agendas and the minutes are on the website, and they've been updated, so they're up to date. And there you go. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are you ready for the volley?
I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay, Marcy, we'll start with you.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Mary?
I'd just like to say thank you for all of the information. This is, it's nice to see that you finally you're getting to an end result on a strategic plan, because I think that was one of the comments that this board has had back to the beginning. So I think that's great. You know, I look forward to looking through it, and also thank you for the financial statement, because that is also exactly what we've always been looking for. Just a summary of what's been expended and what you still have. So thank you, both of you, for that.
All set, Mary.
All set by me.
John?
Yeah, can you just talk a little bit about the variability of the cell tower revenue? And I was just trying to recover where I saw this earlier, but I thought I saw as a budgetary number, you were using something on the order of $80,000, whereas most of years, you seem to be over $200,000. Just wondering,
Yeah, I believe that was the first year we
yeah.
got it, so it might have been prorated. The projection for fiscal year '22 and '23 is $262,000. So, and that is on that sheet that you have.
Yeah. You know, John, I don't have the details of that. I have to get, I have to follow up with you on that.
okay, but you would expect
We
that
expect
to
to be
be a
consistent.
relatively constant,
Constant, I
not
agree.
changing dramatically from year to year.
I'll follow up on that.
All set, John.
All set, thank you.
Robert,
No comments?
Kelly,
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you for coming through and for both of you showing up and providing all of the detail that you did. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy.
Yeah, I guess I'm still curious as to where there's some information about the short-term rental tax money, the percentage that was supposed to go towards affordable housing. I know it's in some stabilization fund somewhere, but it never seems to show up anywhere, and I just was
And I
curious.
apologize. You asked that question last time
I did.
too, and I forgot to follow up on it. I
Okay.
guarantee you this time I'll follow up and send an email and see what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a, great creative source of funding, and the taxpayers voted for it, and I'd like to see it show up someplace on the income statement.
Yep. No, I agree. Let me
It's
follow
out there in the land somewhere.
Well, that doesn't do this group any good.
That's
the
for sure.
Affordable Housing
No.
Trust, so, that's it.
You
I
also?
shall do that.
Okay. Larry, thank you very much for going through this exercise. It makes a big difference to us because we've wanted this so long, and it was like pulling hen's teeth.
Yeah, we were here a couple months ago, and I would comment that, we have a requirement as an annual report. I expect, my intent, and I'll speak for Brendan and others, we want to show up more often, so you know we won't keep it. I'd like to keep it less formal than this, just be sure you're involved with where we're going and get the information, we know it. Because we do have a lot of things that are, with the strategic plan and the draft RFP. We hope we'll have new stuff on that hopefully shortly.
Okay, is there anything else from the board? Thank you very much for that presentation. Moving on.
Moving on, our application is, ones I've complained to.
I'm sorry, Larry, would you hold on for a minute?
Do you want me to recluse at this
Wha-
point?
Yeah, why don't we just be,
Okay.
thank you, Bob. Thank you for reminding me. You've got the floor, Larry.
Okay. Our application is requesting, actually, as we have in the past, is $500,000 to go into the fund. And that's to, if you remember, the goal of the fund is to raise enough revenue or enough money in that if something comes to us, we can act on it, as we did in the Marshline property and hopefully in the future. So it is sitting there. We need to, Kathy and I agree, we need to get some information on finances, but we track that. And, I think it's easy to argue, and I hope it's easy, it's easy to argue that housing in general is desperately needed in Harwich. And the purpose is, and our mission of the trust is to get a large enough fund that we can act when we find a property or find land, or that helps housing, affordable housing, that we can move on it quickly, because sometimes things do move, and that's the reason for the fund. Our commitment and our regulatory obligation, of course, is not to use that until it's voted on, and we're fiduciary responsibility, so we are legally bound to not waste it, I guess, and go through all the application routes. And I would say that maybe the first time we'll use that in a relatively quick way if we can help the fire association to have 3 apartments. Because that would allow them, if that's possible, that would allow them to continue that building and get everything going, so when you know, if they get CPC funds, they won't get final till next year, but they could do a lot of work in the meantime and speed that along and get housing.
And we're gonna also, jump in here real quick, we're also gonna start an application process for developers. So we use the fire station as an example, but as developers come in, they wanna do 2 or 3, 4 units. It's tough to make the numbers work, and they're not gonna do 40B, so we could jump in and assist. So we'll have an application process for that.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say to it. I mean, it's the same reason we started the fund years ago, the Housing Trust Fund. We're just trying to increase that, if you will, to have funds available. Happy to answer any questions I can.
Okay, I'm gonna open up the questions. Larry, who's the vice chair?
I am.
You're the vice
Brendan
chair.
is.
Why is Joe Powers listed as the project
He's
manager?
not. What I gave you by accident was last year's form as a baseline. We have a new application in this year.
End of conversation. That's fine.
Which
I'll open it up to the
I'm-
board.
I'm the applicant and Brendan's the alternate according to your form application.
Okay.
I wanted to give you that baseline, David.
Kathy,
I don't have any questions right now.
Kelly,
I see in your like year one action plan and kind of 5-year budget, I guess what I'm looking for is if you have anything in mind for if you were to get these funds of, like any current targets you're looking at that you'd be, using these funds to expend on. I see the fiscal year 24 use budget and fiscal year 25 that you're looking around, almost $1 million each time at development initiatives. So I was curious if you could talk more on that.
I don't actually, because we're waiting now to see what the developer comes in with the RFP. We're hoping that, my hope is that the, providing the land for that will make that self-sufficient.
Mhm.
You know, we have some money for the Fire Association apartments, but we don't have a number for that yet.
Mhm.
Of what, they came in with a tentative number of around $150,000 per apartment. If that's where it goes, that'd be that first use of that,
Mhm.
but I haven't got a firm number on it. So I can't answer that question at the moment.
Great, thank you. One more.
go ahead, Kelly.
Do you have any, have you been looking at any potential land purchases, or has any come to light that you're looking at for housing or partnering with HCT or otherwise, like other opportunities?
Just in a very speculative way, if you will.
Mhm.
We've had some discussions on long possibilities, but nothing that definitely enough that I'd like to bring up
Mhm.
here. We
Okay.
keep our eyes open.
Mhm.
And we've also, we do have the real estate and open space member attend most of our meetings as well. So we're trying to keep those avenues open.
Okay, thank you. All set.
Okay, and I assume if you really get creative, those would be in confidential executive session?
They would be, yes.
Okay.
Have to be.
Thank you. John?
So I have sort of technical questions about the application. In the application, you list a bunch of documentation that under the heading of documentation that will be delayed, some of which I think I see in the submissions you gave for your update. So my question is, in putting your material out for public view, what should be included in the application? Because so far, all we have as part of the actual application is the form that got generated from the online process.
Yeah, and that's probably my confusion, because I give a lot of documents that supported last year's, but they also are supporting, they apply to the application. So those should go out to, those should be available.
So can I suggest that
Can I,
Larry and yourself sit down and have a,
Let's talk offline.
we'll talk off, be sure we get those there, because,
Maybe just after this, or
right.
if you're around still. Okay,
thank you.
yeah,
We'll-
Anything else, John?
no.
We'll figure that out, because we have all the documentations here. we'll get them to you.
Well, then, I mean, Jan sent us a bunch of stuff. Do you have more stuff that isn't included in
No.
what you sent to Jan?
The things that you
What-
gave us tonight,
Right.
you emailed me,
Right.
and I sent it to committee.
So I have all those things. So my
We're
question
not
is,
sure what's,
which of those things need to be included with the application?
Okay.
And you can tell me offline, send me an email, we don't have to take up time here, but I would like to get that all up
Well,
online
okay,
as soon as possible.
I'll follow up, but briefly, what I'd like to go with this, and what you have now is the Affordable Housing Trust Income Statement, which is a single page we looked at,
Yeah.
the P&L, the draft trust action plan, the draft Marceline request for proposal, and which you have,
Do we have that? Was that part of what you sent?
yeah,
yes.
the strategic plan. You do have the email of it, and we have a hard copy tonight.
Right. And so you have those.
But my question was, you definitely want that
I do.
part of the application?
Right.
Okay, well, then I'll take those three things.
But
combine
those
them.
three things,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So we don't have to,
That's interesting discussion, because I think in the past, there's been reluctance to share that because they're draft. But I don't think we should hide those, because they're public. We've talked about them in an open meeting. And as long as, I'm gonna repeat over and over again, they are draft. We're gonna keep looking at especially RFP, because that's the first cut. But I think as soon as they're out there, then we'll get reaction, we'll start discussion, so.
okay.
Please keep stamping it draft. Okay, Marcy,
No questions, thank you.
anybody else from the board? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brendan, you need a bigger notebook.
Well, next
Hope
time.
not.
Look at the size of it.
I'll be sure I follow Jan's
This
directions.
is just to
more,
intimidate
because
you, that's
I'll be careful to follow your directions a little more quickly, because I end up getting the document probably the wrong place then.
Right, well, no, you did. Anything that goes for the application, for anybody this year, I need 5 paper copies. Any additional information needs to be put online, right from that first page of the online application. If you scroll down on it, it has the little
I,
bold thing saying
no,
down or
no,
upload.
and I saw that,
supplementals.
well, we won't go into that now.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the emails.
I was struggling some with the application form, but that's probably me.
When do we have this?
But on the application, we also
What's
saying that we
next?
have minutes in the agendas,
This is
which we
Michael
wouldn't
Block.
upload.
This
But you
is
say it's
stuff in-
online.
It's online.
It's
which-
online.
Yeah.
Makes sense to
Which
me,
is
and
fine.
I'm an
Yeah, we
office,
figured
so.
we'd just leave something
Okay,
like
so
that
the three
online.
of them.
Okay,
All right.
great, thank you.
Paul, you have anything you want to add before we step down? Oh, Bob, you made it. This is Bob Spencer, another member.
I'm serious, there's,
Okay, next.
We need to bring Bob back in. Oh,
Here
there
it
he is.
comes.
Thought we lost you for a second.
So not to be rude, but I want everybody's, if anybody doesn't want their paper ID.
Okay.
Is anybody that gives
Do you
us
need
that?
it?
Anybody who gives, I have, if they are part of the application, I have to have those 5 copies
Right,
to
you
give
just
to
give you 5
Dave
copies?
gets to keep his, because Dave's the chair, but anybody else who doesn't want copies, I'll take them.
So can we say, would you please say that out loud so I don't have to repeat you?
Dave gets to keep his copies.
But the rest of you, if you're not using the copies,
Mary wrote on
I wrote on
hers.
mine.
please pass them in.
That's okay, Mary.
I told you I'm a
Okay,
paper
so next,
It's in front of me, I'm gonna write on it.
That's perfectly okay.
Michael, you're next. Go ahead.
have these. I want to keep this one.
You can, you can, anything
You've
you
got the
want.
floor.
Take whatever, I can.
Michael Locke, serving as Executive Director of the nonprofit Harwich Conservation Trust. Thanks for having Harwich Conservation Trust here this evening to present a project for your consideration. I also want to acknowledge our Chair of the Board of Trustees, Tom Evans, is with us here in the audience. So this project, titled the North Woods and Water Supply Protection Project, we hope can be another example of our continuing partnership between Harwich Conservation Trust and Town of Harwich, specifically through the Community Preservation Act open space funds. There are elements to this in terms of project background that I'll summarize, and then I'll move into the conservation significance of the property. So Harwich Conservation Trust had been in communication with the landowner for over 15 years, discussing potential conservation options for the property. The property being 10.29 acres, so call it 10.3 acres. Northerly portion, the 3.3 in Brewster, and then the southerly portion, as you can see from your map, 7 acres in Harwich. So the 7 acres is the focus of the Community Preservation Act open space funding application for $100,000 toward the acquisition of the property by Harwich Conservation Trust, and the town would receive a permanent conservation restriction on the land that through the Conservation Commission. So it's a model that we've followed successfully in the past, and we think it's a positive outcome for the town of Harwich in this case as well. So the property at its closest point to an existing town of Harwich municipal well is about 1,500 feet away. The well being located off to the west on town water department land. That well serving 13,000 households. Population in the summer increases to about 40,000. We've received support letters from the Town Real Estate and Open Space Committee and the Town Conservation Commission relative to the importance of conserving this property. You can see from your maps the property's contiguity, its connectivity to existing town land, both select board controlled land to the west and Town Conservation Commission land to the south. So over 100 acres of town-owned land between those two entities, and of course Harwich water supply land off to the west. We feel that there's a larger wildlife habitat connectivity benefit in partnering with our land trust counterpart in Brewster. So we're working with Brewster Conservation Trust in asking them to raise the funds to acquire the northerly 3.3 acres in their town, which in turn connects to approximately 900 acres of town of Brewster Punkhorn Park lands. Based on the state designated habitat data layers through the town's, through the state's GIS mapping program, this property has statewide habitat significance, both mapped as priority habitats of rare species, including potentially eastern box turtle. Also mapped as core habitat and critical natural landscape by the state. So that's not just regionally important, it's statewide importance. And also, as I mentioned before, the connectivity between existing town-owned lands. The last map in your set looks at the existing trail network. One particular trail runs roughly north-south along the property's westerly boundary. There was an appraisal included in the application, $335,000 for one house lot. That's 7 acres of upland. The reason for one house lot is because of the restricted access and lack of frontage at this point in time. So this is a great value to work with the town in acquiring this property. If it did have road frontage and access, we'd be looking at a much higher price point. If the property isn't protected, someday there would be access, perhaps from Birch Drive Extension, which is off to the east of the property, or adjoining properties if development was to springboard from those. So if the town were to see fit, through your recommendation, advancing the project to town meeting voter consideration for $100,000 in exchange for a permanent conservation restriction over the property, the net cost to the town would be less than $14,300 per conserved acre. Again, good value, especially its proximity to town of Harwich municipal water supply and the other benefits that I've summarized. So we appreciate your review and certainly welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Open it up to the board. We'll start with Mary.
I have no questions on this one so far.
Lassie,
I have no questions, thank you.
Kelly,
I see that your estimated completion date is very, very close to when funds would be available. And you have a few applications before us here, so I'm curious, just in case funds are not available, what are your funding options to fill in that gap?
It's a great question. So we worked with a nonprofit partner, the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust. It's a regional land trust service center. One of the functions that the Compact provides is to be a buy and hold agent for its member land trusts, of which Harwich Conservation Trust is one. So we work with the Compact to have the Compact buy and hold on January 10th of this year. That gives us the breathing room to raise the funds, to move through the town meeting and committee decision-making process, and also apply for state grants. Often, both of those efforts, town meeting cycle or state grant application cycle, has a longer time frame than some landowners would prefer. So when they have an earlier closing deadline, we'll often work with the Compact to meet that need. If funds are not available July 1, then we would reconsider our options and have the Compact hold it for longer.
Thank you. No further questions.
okay, Robert,
Is this any contingencies on the Brewster part? For instance, if the Brewster didn't approve it and we did, is there any implications of that, or is it just two separate deals?
Two separate deals in terms of the town of Harwich town meeting voters' consideration, just to focus on the 7 acres.
Okay. But, so if Brewster decided not to buy it, I assume they bought their portion in the same way?
They're raising funds now, the Brewster Conservation Trust.
Same thing, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. But there is no implication if they didn't come up with the money and Harwich did, or vice versa?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all set, Robert? John,
No questions, thank you.
Kathy,
Yeah, so this is strictly for open space preservation, because there's no intent to do any additional public access with trails or anything like that, just what's existing, is that correct?
At this time, we'd keep the option open for a trail in the future. But since there's already an existing trail along the westerly boundary, I think that suffices at the moment. There's no compelling reason at the moment to add additional trails to the property.
Well, so from the map, the existing trail runs along the border of the property.
Yep, the westerly boundary.
So that would say that that's 7 acres there would just remain pristine.
Habitat.
Without,
Additional trails. At this point in time, that's our thought.
so you're being asked to contribute specifically and primarily for the preservation, conservation of open space here. That's it.
Yeah, and water supply protection.
Okay. Just want to make that clear.
okay, any other questions from the board? Moving on.
So the next project for your consideration is titled the Red River Valley Land and Water Protection Project. You can see a theme here. About 20 years ago, the Harwich Conservation Trust started an initiative called the Save Land, Save Water Initiative. It's a significant goal of prioritizing watershed lands, watersheds in coastal to coastal embayments, watersheds to ponds, watershed land in the recharge area to our sole source aquifer. And prioritizing preserving land to protect water has proven very effective, especially over the last 10 years as we've seen more and more focus and more investment in planning and treating the nitrogen issue in our coastal embayments. And we're continuing to see pond water quality suffer as well. So this project is an effort to not only protect the public water supply, because this is within a recharge area to town wells, both in Harwich and Chatham, but it's also within the watershed to Red River flowing south to Nantucket Sound, right next to the town's largest and most popular beach, Red River Beach. The focus of this application is on a portion of the larger Red River Valley Preserve effort. I'm going to grab a map so I can hold it up. So this map is part of the application package.
North of it, well,
I mentioned that the focus of this application, so your viewers know, the application is for $150,000 from existing Community Preservation Act open space funds, following a similar model that we just discussed in the prior project, and that is for the town to essentially acquire a permanent conservation restriction over the land. The conservation restriction to be held by the Town Conservation Commission. The ownership of the land would be Harwich Conservation Trust. So the focus of this application is the northerly side of a two-parcel project. The northerly side is 2.74 acres, and the focus of this particular application is 2.24 acres. Why? Because there's a half acre in Chatham. So we're looking only at the 2.24 acres in Harwich. Separate from this application is an effort by Harwich Conservation Trust to raise the funds for a property south of and adjacent to Route 28, 9.6 acres with an existing house. Altogether, these properties total 12.34 acres. And Harwich Conservation Trust is working on a total campaign goal of $4.25 million to cover the land acquisition costs for both properties, a site planning process so that we can chart out what the use of the southerly property will be around the existing house. There are funds in that campaign goal to renovate the existing house into a new Harwich Conservation Trust office and learning center. And then there are funds also within that total campaign goal to help maintain the property, specifically the office, over time. So that's the bigger picture of this Red River Valley protection effort. And moving back to the application itself, again, we're focusing only on the 2.24 acres on the north. So in addition to the water supply protection benefit, this property is a missing link in a larger north-south wildlife habitat corridor when you consider the adjoining town of Harwich and town of Chatham conservation lands, and town of Harwich and town of Chatham water department lands. It also happens to be, I would say, a scenic gateway for travelers along Route 28 as they cross back and forth between Chatham and Harwich. So you can see from the aerial, this would be Route 28 heading into Harwich. Here is Red River, which doubles as the border between both towns. And as you enter Harwich, this is what everybody sees and has always seen in their lifetimes. The forested greenbelt along the south and the forested greenbelt along the north. This is the 2.24 acres that we're talking about. Now, it happens to be in two zoning districts, residential zoning district and along the corridor of Route 28 also CH1 or commercial zoning district. So this is on the easterly border of Harwich, entering Harwich. By comparison, this is on the western side of Route 28, same zoning district. So we're moving in this image from Dennis into Harwich. See, entering Harwich here. This is an example, the storage warehouse of a permitted use within the CH1 district, of which the north property is partially within. There can be up to 70% lot coverage in the CH1 district. So that's all background to say this could look radically different if not preserved in terms of the scenic view for everybody traveling from Chatham into Harwich along Route 28. So we see that as another benefit, the public scenic value benefit. We're looking at the timeline that you see in the package there, a little bit longer timeline as we raise the funds for the overall project. So I'm glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up to the floor. Kathy?
Well, since I'm on real estate and open space, we already went through everything with Mike. In fact, I wrote the support letter. But again, I just want to voice my concern about housing and the use of land, and, you know, are always trying to preserve, and we're not always looking. And I just want to put that out there again. I mean, I understand the importance of it. You know, we voted in favor of it because of its water protection importance. But again, to Mary's point too, getting something on the tax rolls to support all this other stuff would be helpful too. So that's it.
All set, Kathy. Marcy?
Yeah, just had a question. So you had mentioned there's a home that you're looking to renovate as HCT office. So would you be using both locations?
The existing house is on the southern property, the 9.6 acre property. The northerly property, subject to this application, doesn't have any structures on it. So it would be habitat, water supply protection, and protection of the Red River watershed.
Yeah, thank you.
All set, Marcy.
Yes, thank you.
Mary?
Just two quick questions. I may have missed it. Do you know the assessed valuation on this 2.4 in Harwich? And if not, I mean, for a later date is fine.
I would have to get back to you on that,
Okay.
unless you have it there, Kathy.
I'll look for it.
Okay.
I didn't think to look it up. And I guess my second question for you.
I do have it,
355.
actually.
Is it 350?
355.
There we go, 355,000,
Great.
yeah.
Thanks, Bob. And I guess my second question is, if push comes to shove between the money, I know they're both relatively even asked, but if we're looking between Northwoods or Red River, do you have a priority based on either of those yet, or would that be something you could provide us at a later time?
I could provide that to you at a later time. I know that
We're
was
gonna
mentioned.
prioritize.
Yes, yep.
All set, Mary?
all set, thank you.
John?
I have no questions or comments, thank you.
Kelly?
I have a comment and then a question. So I didn't put in my 2 cents on the housing and conservation conversation. I agree that looking for right plots for housing is important. As a Harwich resident, I really value, well, I need housing, but I also really value conservation. And see the real clear need for both. I recognize that this is, judging by what you gave us, is a much better fit for conservation, in my opinion, just evaluating, especially water protection and scenic value for the public. So thank you for making your arguments there. My question is, you write in here that you would consider next year to apply for a state conservation partnership grant. What do you use, or I guess take into consideration for whether or not you'd be applying for a grant for this property?
It depends how the overall fundraising effort goes for the bigger picture of both properties.
Thank you, that is all.
Okay, Kelly. Robert?
So right now, the Compact Cape Cod Conservation Trust owns the property.
Yeah, we asked them to buy and hold on August 17th.
Right, and so that, can that, I mean, if you never bought the piece of property, what happens?
It's a great question. Knock on wood, we haven't faced that circumstance. If we did, meaning we fell short on the fundraising for property that was pre-acquired by the compact on HCT's behalf, the compact could sell it.
And they could sell it back into commercial use?
Sure, in the open market, yep.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Kathy, did I get you?
You got me.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, moving on.
Well, thanks for your questions and your consideration. So, this next project is a little different. It's a public access project titled the Coldbrook Trailhead and Public Access Project. This, as you know, is kind of a capstone element of the larger Coldbrook Ecological Restoration Project that is under construction right now just to the south on Harwich Conservation Trust 66-acre Robert F. Smith Coldbrook Preserve on Bank Street. The partners in that eco-restoration effort being Town of Harwich, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the State's Division of Ecological Restoration, as well as our newest partner, the nonprofit Harwich Fire Association. I wanted to recognize Norm Clark and Joe Rago and Bruce Young here with Harwich Fire Association. I also want to recognize Richard Waystack, who was instrumental in connecting both Harwich Fire Association and Harwich Conservation Trust in both nonprofits' joint effort in acquiring the 203 Bank Street property from the Select Board on December of last year. I also want to recognize again Tom Evans, Chair of the Board of Trustees, who's been very active in working with Harwich Fire Association in that effort to both acquire 203 Bank Street, which roughly totals 2 acres, and again, both nonprofits' interest in improving the parking, public access, as well as completing the wheelchair accessible trailhead connector to the greater trail network to the south. So the ask through this application is for $250,000 sourced from recreation funds or undesignated funds as the CPC sees fit. We did receive a unanimous vote of support from the town's Youth and Recreation Commission in support of this application, and we also received a letter of support from the Town Conservation Commission. We've completed through grant funding for a Mass Trails $100,000 grant, engineering work and design by the BSC group, including an approved amended order of conditions from the town Conservation Commission earlier this month. So now we're at the stage where we're trying to assemble construction funds to actually create the roughly 30 parking spaces, including 4 handicap accessible spaces, create a scenic overlook for the public, and again, create that American with Disabilities Act rated trailhead connector to the larger trail network to the south. CPC had voted in the past favorably, thank you. Advanced at town meeting also voted in favor of contributing funds towards a half-mile wheelchair accessible trail loop to which this area will connect. So the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and this is key in that effort. So we appreciate your review, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board. We're going to start with Robert.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of questioning, this obviously can't come under open space. I'm questioning the category
Right.
now. So it can't be under open space.
It
because-
can be under recreation.
But it can be under recreation. And, okay, so the parking, there's considerable amount of parking there. And it looks like you're supporting all the parking that's shown on the map, correct?
To be jointly used by both.
That was the question I had.
Go
is
ahead.
That it is, you really almost both are applying, not only because it's going to be used also by the fire auxiliary or department, correct? For their building.
Yes, the parking area will serve both organizations and the public at large.
Okay.
Yep.
So just the kind of jurisdiction of, shouldn't that be a joint application between you and them? Or is it that you're gonna have total control of it, and you're gonna have agreements to lease back parking with them, or? I'm
Excellent
getting in the
question.
weeds here, but-
No, actually, you're getting into important details. So we're in the process, we being Harwich Conservation Trust and the Harwich Fire Association, of determining how best to divide responsibility of ownership regarding the 4 parcels that comprise the collective 2-acre property. And right now, we're working together on a concept that would result in the Harwich Fire Association owning the lot that the firehouse is on, and Harwich Conservation Trust owning the other 3 lots, subject to an easement for parking and access in favor of Harwich Fire Association. So you're right on track with the direction we're headed.
Okay. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Mary?
You looking at me?
Look at me.
No, I was looking
Looking
at
that way, but
But I said Mary.
checking. Just one quick question.
Yes.
I believe the parking lot was already permitted through planning, correct?
Thank you, Mary. That's right.
Okay, I
A
just
special
wanted to double
permit.
check on that.
Special permit through the planning board, also part of that permitting process, the planning board granted special permit for Harwich Fire Association's 3 workforce housing units.
Correct.
All
That
set,
is all,
Mary.
just clarification, yes, thank you.
John?
Yeah, so, back to the topic of priorities, what would the consequences be? Or what would the impact be on the rest of this rather extensive project be if this were not done?
So the funding for the larger eco-restoration project, that the construction phase is underway to the south, that's all in place from a variety of sources. This public access project is the last piece of the puzzle. So if this didn't advance to town meeting, it would take longer for us to create public access that would be acceptable for use.
So, I mean, it seems like there are two parts to this. One is the parking. The other is the drainage and other things that you're doing between the parking and the rest of the project. So it would take longer, but if this weren't done for a few years, how would that missing part, aside from the parking, how would the other softscape, if you want to call it that, not being done, how would that affect the project?
Yeah, it would be unfortunate because stormwater runoff would still be running without any attenuation toward the wetland. We would not have the kind of access for all persons access, handicap access that we're striving for. We think that would be a great amenity for the community, all ages access. And we also would see the rest of the projects on which so much time and resources have been spent, meaning the eco-restoration project would really be unfinished. This is the gateway parcel to the larger eco-restoration effort. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to invite the public in the way we've been envisioning.
So, but aside from the access part of it, controlling stormwater runoff, I mean, if the parking area was just left the way it is now, you would still have a stormwater runoff issue here.
That's correct, yeah.
And so I guess my question is, why wasn't controlling that stormwater runoff part of the overall plan, aside the overall restoration plan? Because it seems like it's an important part of the project.
Sure, yeah,
Aside from the public access piece of it.
I can answer that. So,
Michael, we're straying a little bit, so.
no, but this is
Okay,
important now. So
fair
if I may,
As long as you
if I may. So the reason that it has taken us longer to permit the stormwater management aspect, which we did receive an amended order of conditions from the Conservation Commission recently, earlier this month. So again, permit in hand. All we need are the construction funds to move forward. You've seen how fast and efficient the Harwich Fire Association is at renovating the exterior of the firehouse. They're looking for funds to finish the job inside. We're looking for funds to finish the job in terms of public access. The reason we couldn't permit for stormwater management attenuation purposes early on is because we didn't own the property. The town owned the the town select board in particular had custody of this 2-acre property. And so, we went through the process and we were fortunate to be successful in being the most competitive bid to acquire it. That allowed us to move forward with the engineering design and the permitting process.
Thank you.
All set, John.
All set.
Mary, I'll come back.
Okay.
Marcy?
I'm all set, thank you.
Mary?
Kathy,
It's all mixed up.
how long have I been on this committee?
I know.
Longer than anybody else here.
I swear that-
Quick question. So, what has the town contributed thus far to the Coldbrook ecological restoration?
So in 2017, town meeting voters authorized $2 million towards the eco-restoration project. About 1.5 million is still available for the construction phase. Now that's directed towards the nitrogen reduction or attenuation aspects of the eco-restoration project because the town's primary interest is in reducing the amount of nitrogen that flows through HCT's property, through the wetland, through the stream, down to Saquatucket Harbor, which is a nitrogen-impaired coastal embayment. If that nitrogen count doesn't come down in Saquatucket Harbor, then that means the town has to pay for costly wastewater sewering infrastructure. Prior to that 2017 $2 million authorization, the town authorized in 2 separate town meeting articles $50,000 toward a nitrogen attenuation feasibility study. The town contracted that study on its own. The result of that study drove the interest in contributing funds towards the eco-restoration effort. The estimate at the time in that feasibility study was that by investing $2 million towards the eco-restoration project, it could save taxpayers up to $6 million and reduce sewer costs. That was before pandemic inflation, so I would say that number is probably even higher. Since then, in 2021, town meeting voters approved through Article 34, $150,000 towards the design, permitting, and construction of the half-mile wheelchair accessible trail loop that I mentioned earlier. And in 2022, same Article number 34, town meeting voters, and by the way, thank you, CPC, for positively recommending each of those, $75,000 towards a 100-foot boardwalk in the easterly part of the property. That was in 2022. So that's the extent of public funding to date through the town of Harwich.
Okay. And the other thing I noticed is that on the timing of this, so you've closed access to,
As of September 1st because of the
because
construction.
of the construction. I noticed that in your paperwork, you said that you hope to complete it by July 2024, and then that this particular project would start in July 24, the parking lot, if it was so voted by town meeting.
Yes.
So then that would continue the closure through the summer, at
That's-
least, or however long
that's-
this project would take.
That's right. That's what we're seeing at the moment. Yes.
And how long do you think that this particular project would take?
I would expect this to be completed by the fall.
Okay. And then you mentioned a scenic overlook?
Yes.
What was that? And where was that?
It's right in the parking lot.
Hmm?
It's right in the parking lot.
You might see in your packet a smaller version
Yeah.
of this engineer designed by BSC Group. Harwich Conservation Trust and Harwich Fire Association went through many meetings. So there's a consensus building process to come up with this design. So I'm just going to orient everybody. Here's Bank Street off to the west. Here's Colebrook Preserve to the south. I'm going to outline the roughly 2 acres that Harwich Conservation Trust and Harwich Fire Association jointly purchased on December 8th, 2022. Here's the firehouse that HFA has recently renovated. And then what you see is the new design for parking. And then to your question, the scenic overlook. So there is Americans with Disability Act standard surface material proposed for, it's basically a short loop from the parking lot, accessed from these handicap spaces as well as the regular car parking spaces. For folks who have a shorter amount of time, they can't walk the trails or aren't able, they can take their time, enjoy the view. You see many folks in town who might take a lunch break at a local beach. I could see this as a spot where folks might take a break from their day, enjoy the view, and head back off for the rest of their day. Here's the wheelchair accessible trail connector, excuse me, that would link up to the larger half-mile trail wheelchair accessible loop to the south.
And what is that on the map that looks like stones or something?
Here, or,
Yeah, there's like 3 little spots that look like.
oh, here. Yeah, these are to address the stormwater runoff from the parking lot.
Okay.
Yep, infiltration basins.
And is your shed still on there?
That's a good question. Here, we had that moved. Yeah. We don't have a spot for that yet.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it.
That's it. I'm sorry, that's it. All right.
All right.
No spot for the shed. then.
Mary?
So just one comment, going
Yes.
back to what the impact would be if the parking lot doesn't get built. I think it probably has a bigger impact for the fire association because they would likely be held up on their certificate of occupancy if the parking lot isn't completed as a part of their as-built under their special permit. So
Guess they're
A
gonna
con-
get
a,
fundraising then.
con- a consideration. It's just,
But
they have,
reading this application, it's Michael.
Right.
I understand that, but it is still they're still currently joint owners of the parcel. There is a special permit on that land that includes the parking, because the parking is essential to the uses that are being done on that building, and the occupancy of the building is going to need that parking lot in
So
order
we-
for occupancy. So I'm just saying there is an additional consideration. Not only is it essential for the trailhead and the stormwater, but it is also essential to their occupancy of that building, ultimately.
That explanation prioritizes me, but my question is, it's still a joint venture.
Correct.
So,
Currently,
if- yeah,
correct.
that's $250,000.
Correct, but it would still be recreation, because I don't think historic money could go towards it, because it's a parking lot and not the building itself, is my thought on that, but.
Okay. Michael, anything else? Put you in a quandary.
No, I also want to mention that the parking design includes 3 spaces to accommodate the workforce housing units.
Correct.
However, many of those are
Correct.
designated as such. So that's an important element.
Okay. Is there anything else from any of the board members? Kelly,
You left me out.
I'm sorry.
He's forgetful tonight. He's forgetting names, so. Give him a break.
Is the stormwater treatment system, is that part of this project, or is that the restoration project?
It's actually part of this project.
Okay.
There's an extensive, I think it might be more than 150-page analysis by BSC Group. I didn't include it in the application, but I can provide it if you're interested.
Great. My question, if you're able to summarize briefly those 150 pages. I was curious, for myself, the board, but also the public, if you can roughly explain what's being installed and why, and how you're going to, I guess, measure success of that treatment.
I'll speak to that by referring to the engineered design. So what we have are these swales, these natural swales that would be incorporated into the landscape work. So you'd have the water flowing into those, naturally draining. They'd be grassed over. Right now, there's no such drainage pattern. There's also pervious pavers that we're considering in the parking spaces, so that we'd have natural water filtration from that standpoint as well. Does that help answer your question?
And how are you measuring success over time? So you're obviously addressing a stormwater issue, and it said that it's untreated stormwater. So how do you determine that it's been treated?
I think I'd have to rely on BSC Group to answer that question. I'm glad to follow up with them and circle back with all of you if you'd like more information. And I can also provide their stormwater management report, which may have that information.
Thank you. I had another question, if that is okay.
You have the floor.
Thank you. So with HFA as a partner, I know that this is your application, but since the parking is benefiting them as well, I was curious if there's plans for them to help with fundraising, or if there's some other sort of agreement going on, since this is a partnership project.
It's a great question. We're partnering in the effort to raise the funds. This $250,000 is for approximately half of the projected construction cost. Again, with your support, advancing at the town meeting, hopefully town meeting voter support, it would go a long way to lift up the importance of this public access project to the rest of the community and encourage donation support, both through Harwich Fire Association and through Harwich Conservation Trust. So we are working together, both organizations, to try and raise the balance.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Mary?
What? Seriously?
A little levity goes a long way, folks. Come on.
Oh,
Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. This is not gonna be an asphalt parking lot? Is it gonna be a gravel parking lot, so it's more pervious? Like, we didn't talk about the materials.
We're envisioning a permeable surface material. So
For the whole thing, including the entryway, or is the entryway gonna be part?
the entryway, I think the DBW usually prefers a paved apron at the entry spot, just for easier vehicle traction, particularly heading out in either direction on Bank Street. That's been our experience at other trailheads that we've put in place on Kendrick Road, on Church Street, and also Headwaters Drive most recently. So I would expect the apron on Bank Street to be paved, and the rest of the vehicle access lane, I'll call it, between the two main parking locations to be permeable surface. That's what we've been working with BSC Group on.
And where is the storm runoff gonna go?
It's going to go into these. I know it's hard to imagine on a two-dimensional engineered plan, but the slope is generally, down gradient to the south. So there are these swales that would be put in as stopgaps so that it doesn't head into, there's a small wetland here, a little further south here. As part of the amended order of conditions that was recently approved by the Conservation Commission, these are all outside the 60-foot. We've kept the scenic overlook area outside the 50-foot buffer zone to the
The
wetland.
water gets collected in the swale? Are there dry wells or anything, or?
It naturally percolates through the material. Think larger stone that the water would filter down
So
into.
this is just to keep it from going into the wetlands area?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and
Yep.
is Bank Street gonna be sewered in the future? Is that on the plan?
That's a good
Because have we thought about that?
question. That's a good question. I have to get back to you in terms of where that is in the comprehensive wastewater management plan phasing. So I could look that up. I could talk to Dan Pelletier if you want.
Yeah, I mean, just curious,
Mm-hmm.
because if it is, we need to plan for that.
Well, your stormwater's not supposed to go into your sewering.
Yeah.
No.
You
But I mean, I'm
we
just
have to treat
saying,
it separately.
In addition, like, what are we doing?
Michael, so
Yes.
I don't have to go into a thesaurus. Can you define what a swale is?
Yeah, it's
Oh, you don't have-
basically.
I'm sorry, so I have to ask Google.
Oh, it's a fair question. It's basically a shallow depression in the earth. So it's a lower elevation than the surrounding area, so water can collect there. Yeah, filter.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kelly?
May I take Michael up on his offer to share the 150-page document with us, since a few of us had asked questions about the design of this treatment system? Michael, would you mind sharing that with us?
Absolutely,
Thank
sure.
you very much.
Yes. Didn't want to overburden you at the outset, but glad to send it along.
Like, I don't want that.
Wait a minute, I thought you were the paper lady.
No, I don't want that, and I don't want to read it. I'm good.
Soft copies only, right?
Okay, any more
Can-
questions from the board to
Can-
Mr. Latch?
Can I provide that digitally? Or do I have to-
Won't call it, is
That's
it
a
going to be
large-
part of the application or not part of the
Do you want it
application?
attached to the overall application?
That's up to you.
Don't look at me, look at him and you guys decide.
Gentleman question. I would just attach it to the overall application.
So you'll pass it to me and I'll pass it to the committee and it's not part of the application.
Great, thanks. Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I just don't want him to forget his pen.
Oh, yeah. It's your pen, actually.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, that's it as far as I have on this.
No, well, that's because, no, right here,
Before they go, I'm
New
just gonna
business.
excuse myself for a second.
the signs. Update of CPC signs.
Okay. You can read that?
My writing.
All right, so under new business, is there anything?
You have CPC sign update.
John?
Old business.
Well, I have a specific
Thank you.
I have a specific question about,
I just wanted to get that as.
the housing trust documents, because I think Jan assured me when I asked that all those 3 items she had sent, but I can't find the Marceline property RFP.
They didn't
It's
give
the
it to us.
RFP draft.
I don't see an RFP draft.
I will, even what he gave us tonight, it's here.
Well, yeah, but that's paper.
Right.
Right, but I do have it.
He didn't send this to us digitally, not
You
this.
didn't, you didn't,
Did I
gave it to us
not? Well, I will make sure you get
yeah,
it.
if you,
Please do.
And you can see this
I'll
isn't,
be honest.
this isn't.
what's that?
I don't know that the RFP
That's
draft
what's this here?
necessarily belongs as part of the application.
But
The-
that's why I asked.
The strategic plan, the draft of the strategic plan, maybe, the
But I'll make sure I give it to you.
financial statement such as it is, yes, but I don't think the draft RFP needs to be uploaded as part of the, once it's issued, it's gonna be on the website anyway, so,
I asked him what he wanted as part of his application.
I
It's up
understand
to
that.
the applicant, and so I'm just gonna put what he said he wants as part of the application. I don't wanna tamper. I don't want
I
anybody
understand
thinking
that.
I'm tampering with their applications.
Okay,
And I just wanna comment that aside from the housing trust, there were 2 other applications that were incomplete. So if any of you have been looking on the website and reading through on the Google Drive collection, well, it's 3 applications, the 2 Pine Oak Villages applications, which I now have the one thing that was too big for them to upload, and the firefighters association thing. I'm gonna attach those and put those up, and then I'm gonna put them all up on the CPC webpage on the town website, which I have not done so far.
okay.
They're all-
except the first one that we did, right, yeah.
Can John tell us what was incomplete, or is that not appropriate?
No, go ahead. No, you can ask that
Can you
question.
tell us what was incomplete?
What was incomplete? Well, I
He
thought I
just said 2
didn't-
applications were incomplete.
Oh, yes, it was actually 3, the 2 Pine Oaks
Oh,
Village
okay.
ones, where they noted in their application that they were gonna
Yep.
provide,
Okay, okay.
on a drive. And then the firefighters association application was noted, I don't think it was noted in
Okay.
the application, but it's just another quote from a vendor for
Okay.
what they're
All right.
proposing, which I've actually already attached it
Okay.
and put it on there, so.
And was there an additional one? You said there were 3.
The
2
housing
Pine Oaks.
trust thing, which I'm
Oh.
putting together, because they didn't include any of those attachments. Now they've told us the 3 attachments they want as part of it, I'm gonna tack them on. Each application, just to be clear, all the elements of each application are in one PDF file. Even though they didn't come in that way, that's the way they're put up.
Okay, so all 18 applications, you've received we've received a hard signed copy, Jan?
I'm not going there.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, update, signs.
that application on the RFP.
Signs, okay, here's the sign. Everybody, here's the sign.
Oh, nice.
You like it?
Yeah, looks nice.
You like it?
Eye-catching.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the deal. I gave approval for the sign. I got pricing on the signs. I got pricing based on our conversation of what we wanted to put out there. Then, we did hear, at one of the selectmen's meetings that they had talked about, perhaps, changing the, CPA, 3% allocation and downsizing that to 2% or 1%. And, we had a conversation, or at least Dave and I did, just briefly about how, given that we really need, the signage is very important. So the quote that I got from Chamber was like $230 for the signs that we had talked about. So I kind of just upped it a little bit. So we're gonna get 4 lawn signs, 3 banners that are 60 inches wide, and 2 banners that are 48 inches wide. So I just added a couple so that we could put them in more places, so we could be more visible. So it might be like $300 or $350, something like that. We allocated up to $10,000 for signage.
Absolutely.
Right.
So can I ask a question? The lawn signs, are the lawn signs,
They just,
that's what I'm saying, are they like an election
I think so.
sign?
Yeah, I think they're
I
not.
would actually think it would be better to spend a little more money and do something that's a little more permanent, that's a little more visible for those lawn
But
signs.
I think we decided we wanted to try this. We wanted to see, and there's certain places that are not appropriate for banners, but they might be appropriate for a lawn sign. So I thought the committee, we decided that we were gonna try this out.
I think we did. I'm saying I think 200 and some odd dollars is certainly
It-
money, is cheap money and money well
I
well
agree,
spent.
but it's a start.
Particularly if
So
we're
it-
trying to get
Cut to the
visibility out
chase. Are
there.
you asking to up our game?
Yes. And pay a little more money, maybe do a few more lawn signs or do slightly bigger lawn signs that would
But I
serve
think
the
we
purpose.
agreed we needed to start off small.
I think we
Because
did.
we also have to think about, and we talked about this as a
Yeah.
committee, people checking on the signage, seeing if it's gonna be vandalized, how long is it gonna last, is it gonna stand up to the weather, is it gonna stay in one place for a certain amount of time and then not others? So I think there's a lot of
Variables.
questions.
Agreed.
So we're starting off small. We
Okay.
can always put another order in.
Yes.
Ti-
And my
Timing
two,
is gonna be everything with this.
my 2 cents is I just think we should, particularly if people are legitimately talking about reducing your CPA
Right.
by spring, because I'm
you
assuming
go.
that's a springtown meeting. So time is of the essence is more my line of thought on that, that's all.
I say, let's get what we're gonna get, put them up, let's get them up. And let's see what kind of a reaction we get initially. If it's positive, we can put in another order.
Marcy?
When I first started this board, we were talking about the signs, and Kelly had spoken about, we all discussed where we would put the signs, and I agreed that I would look at the signs and make sure they're not vandalized. So that was the consensus.
Sign police?
Sign police, yes, because my husband works for a sign company, so
There
you
you
guys
go.
looking for other bids?
Kelly?
I was curious for the yard signs, are they double-sided or single-sided?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, if, my suggestion is that they be double-sided, cause then just like the election signs.
Right, one would hope.
Yeah.
But
I
I
would
don't know the answer
double-check
to that
that.
question. So the order's been placed,
Okay,
because I was told to
Get it done.
get it done. So that is for future reference, if, in case it's not, but
Just another question. We have that complete list, right, of projects. It is, I tend to wonder if, from a publicity standpoint, that we shouldn't also think about, not on these signs, but on future signs, saying the total spend of CPC funds and the total number of projects supported over the last 20 years. I think that needs to be out there somewhere.
I'm not sure the sign is the right
It may not
place,
be,
but-
it may not be the sign, but I do think it is something that we need to consider because I think our residents and our taxpayers would be shocked to realize what that total spend is over the last, 20 years, 15 years?
Sure.
There's a massive board, recreation board down at Brooks Park. Says Town of Harwich, Brooks Park, and that's all that's on that board. And it's as big as that, bigger than that screen. That might be a location where it's right on Oak Street. Everybody sees it going by Brooks Park. That might be an idea of where to put something like you're describing.
And it's also not a bad social media post,
Exactly what I was gonna say.
so just, you know, we're heading into budget season where the town is gonna start preparing the budget, and as people look to find creative ways to reduce CPC monies, albeit through, there are creative ways to do it.
Reallocate was the
And this
word
is
that
what you're
was.
saying,
is-
Mary, is this list that Kathy compiled.
Yes.
Do you have this?
I believe
It
I
is,
do.
I think
And
it's
it's on the
important for people to understand how much
Do you need me to email it? to
these
you?
CPC funds have supported the ultimate budget and capital projects around town since its inception.
Like $20 million, right?
Oh, at least, I would think.
John,
So, I think we should put that information in a concise way online in some manner and have a little QR patch on the corner of the sign. Everybody's doing this these days, but it's, people gonna pay attention to that. They see the QR, they're gonna point their phones at it.
Yep.
And they're gonna go and get that information.
And it
You
can link
can't-
right back to your list of projects on the
But
CPC
just keeping in
webpage.
mind that it's probably people with phones, so
Yep.
it's gotta be presented in a way that they can see that information on a phone.
Kathy's having
Oh, my God.
Having
I
concerns
have
about
so
a
much
QR
trouble with
code,
those
but
QR
that's
things.
okay.
I can learn.
well, what I have learned, what the dinosaur has learned, that through, if you're reading anything about the Recreation Commission now, that world that you young folks live in, that electronic world, it's everywhere, and the information's everywhere. And I view it totally different than a lot of you folks probably do, but it's real and it should be accessed. It's huge. And I'm finding out the hard way. So kudos to you, sir.
Well, did my part.
Kelly.
Kelly,
If a QR code on the signs is desired, that's pretty easy for me to, if we know what website we wanted to, whether it's this project list or just the CPC page, it's easy for me to just generate a QR code, laminate it, and just stick it on the sign, so it doesn't need to be made up.
Robert,
This may be asking too much, but the QR code should be unique to each project, to each place, and it gives an explanation of that particular project, but then
all the
goes to the general list of all.
So I
this
was looking
this
at it
one's gonna have a
otherwise.
stroke in a minute.
I was looking at it otherwise, to just have a QR code that would link back to the
No, I know.
main list that
That-
somebody
that-
can look
yeah,
at,
Yeah.
and then find the articles.
Kathy,
Kathy's gonna
Take
have
a
a
breath.
stroke.
I would suggest that as an agenda item for our next meeting, we put on the agenda a conversation about how we want to deal with this potential problem, as we might
Yes.
see it, the reduction of
Definitely.
the percentage of funding that goes into the CPA account, and see what we might want to do. We might want to come up with some other suggestions of how we want to go about this, and a timeline, too. We're going to need a timeline.
Agreed.
Jen,
Yeah, I got it.
thank you. Okay, is there anything else that anybody wants on the agenda?
Hopefully it's welcoming, Emily.
And Jan, will you give us a rundown of the meetings?
I
Dates?
don't have them all, oh, are you ready for me? Okay, I don't have them all yet, the replies from everybody, but our next meeting, I went with how the the highest number of attendees is what decided on the meeting.
Okay.
So we are October done after this, November 2nd, one person can't come, everybody else can. And then the 16th of November, everybody but one can come. December 7th, everybody can come. And December 14th, everybody can come.
If we need it.
Right. Now, the way we're working it is we're loading up as many people as I can, but everybody's schedules are different. So working backwards, if we need the 14th to do follow-ups, make vote, that's what we'll do on December 14th. December 7th, Rec is coming. He's got 4 projects. We'll do more follow-up, start discussion, and possible vote. November 2nd and November 16th, everybody else will be coming. I've gotten replies from just about everybody, but I am still waiting on a few. And at this point, if I could get this over here, at this point, I have cemetery, CDP, and soccer coming on the 2nd. I have Pine Oaks and rental assistance coming on November 16th. The firehouse is gonna let me know, and the press box is gonna let me know. And the adult shared living, I don't know. So that's
Mary.
everybody.
I just want to clarify, Jan's talking about possible votes. We don't have numbers yet. There's no way we're
No,
going to
no,
be.
what she's doing
Discussion
is, hold on.
December.
What she's doing is, when I started this, I always included that in the
Okay.
information,
Just-
just to cover it across the board, just in case something happened. But you're absolutely right. I think a few of us have an idea how much money is there, but it's not the finance director of the town of Harwich. So, as I keep saying.
So Jan,
Okay.
could you just tell me again on November 2nd who you have?
Cemetery,
Yeah.
CDP, which is
Yeah.
Lower Cape Housing
Right.
Institute, and soccer is the president,
The
is
police
Harwich
association.
Police.
And
Soccer.
you're trying to get someone else also, right, so that we have at least 4?
Yes,
Okay, because that's
the
pretty
press box
light.
and Old
That's
Firehouse
light,
have been given the 2nd, and the firehouse has been given the 2nd and the 16th. It all depends how fast they get back to me. If somebody can't come on a particular night, I shift them. That's why it
Yeah,
takes
I mean,
forever.
we don't want to have 2 meetings in November, 2 meetings in December if we're only going to have like a couple of
We
people show
don't,
up.
as you said, we may not, if we don't know the budget, we may not have to do a discussion on on December 14th.
Yeah,
But
okay.
we couldn't, Rec has to come on the December 7th meeting.
Okay.
So I've got 3 for November 2nd, 3 for November 16th, and 3 are waiting to be brought into my calendar.
And just for confirmation, Jan, I am definitely not available on the 16th, so.
Right.
Okay.
And if anybody's plans change, I'd have a quorum of 5, or I'll go into a conniption. So if something,
One,
Yeah.
if something comes up, just let me know.
yes.
I just wanted to say that I had inquired with the town clerk today about a question about open meeting law, and that if we have a quorum of 5, and somebody has to recuse themselves,
You don't have a quorum.
That's it.
We're
There's
dead
no
in the
quorum.
water.
Yep.
so
Yep.
just keep that in mind.
No, I won't.
I'm just telling you.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
dead in
You
the
have to have a
water.
quorum available at the,
I understand.
Well,
the-
so
at
at
the-
this point, I have at least 6, and now 7.
well, my
in
point is,
December,
on the 16th,
maybe.
if Bob's involved in an application and I'm not here, you're down 2, you're not down just 1.
Pine
Right.
Oaks.
Right.
Bob,
I'm just bringing it up.
And it's, point well made, thank you.
2,
It was my other reason for
3,
commenting that I'm not available.
The same issue on the 3rd, too.
On what?
The 3rd, the first,
Okay.
the
The
second.
second?
second.
I'm absent that
CDP.
day.
Yeah, you're absent, and then there'll be, my assumption is I will not be, I'll recluse on all affordable, on all housing requests.
so the Institute as well.
Yeah,
Well,
Really?
That's a choice.
No, it may
So,
not be.
we
He
still-
might be right. I mean, he might
Yeah,
have to.
I-
He's gotta
and I-
follow.
That's why I said, that's a choice. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then you gotta,
6.
Emily.
I'm available on the 2nd.
There we go,
I'm not available on the 16th.
16,
The 16th I am.
okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna be here for all those. I don't remember actually responding to you about all those dates, so I don't know.
we did it a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had things come up, but as of now,
He's good to go, is what he's
Well,
trying
it
to say.
it was only last week I asked about the 16th of November, since we got too low on October 19th, and thank goodness,
Are we,
because Bob, you shouldn't even come on the 16th.
are we still down one member?
Yeah, the selectmen's,
Other
appointment.
appointment?
You're 1,
I'm one.
And I need to.
Carol was the other one, Carol was 1.
Well, Kelly is one
And
and Carol
Kelly
is
Kelly
one.
is one.
All right, so
Kelly's-
you're set.
It's,
You're 1 and Kelly's
Housing.
1.
right, it's housing.
Housing,
Oh,
It's housing, that's what it is.
right, housing
2,
Committee.
committee.
'Cause
that
we
would be
have
the 9th, yeah.
That'd be 9, yeah.
Your quorum's still 5, but
Yeah.
Quorum's still 5, so.
Okay, is there anything else?
All right, so for the agenda, we know we're having those people, that particular discussion, and I might have a couple more applications in there. Anything else?
Just your announcement from the Cemetery Commission about the Veterans Memorial,
Yeah, I sent you all that email, the following of how Robin invited everybody, November 11th, and since she'll be here the 2nd, she'll restate it, but November 11th at 11 a.m., they're having that large ceremony to, for Veterans Day, and the circle at Evergreen. The flag installation.
Surprised they didn't do it December 7th. But anyway,
It's Veterans Day.
it's Veterans Day.
yeah, I
It's
got it.
Veterans
But,
Memorial Circle.
if, head count of anybody who was planning to attend,
We don't need a head
Don't
count,
need
it's celebratory, we can all go. We just got that from open meeting law.
okay.
she's right.
As long as we do not deliberate, right, guys?
As long as you do not deliberate.
So anybody can go and y'all
Yep.
can
Yep.
plan it yourselves.
Site visits,
I'm not,
celebratory.
Yep. I'm not doing the head count.
Yeah, you don't have to.
We don't need it.
You don't need it.
No,
All right,
that's-
so, anything else?
No, and it's
That's
real-
it for
It's
the-
really 8:13.
Not 7:30, right, that threw me off when I walked in, I was like,
Oh, okay.
I'm not an hour early, I know
Okay,
I'm
I need
not.
a motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
is there all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.